and welcome to another episode of the Ryan and Elly Show. We are very fortunate, even more fortunate than normal to be here. It was it's nearly going to be ending in an absolute disaster. You will notice over the podcast, always we're looking to try and sort of improve things. And what we often see is like the shiny silver line to the end of it. But
tell the truth, you just love to buy new tables, new tripods.
Well, I think we should give Ben the brains behind what we're doing a bit of credit for it. So he's always looking to try and make it look visually a little bit better. You will notice a new table. These chairs were in the last one, but they weren't in the first couple. So trying to improve it. Gets the table and yeah. Anyway,
let's start from the beginning.
Should be straightforward to put together, but wasn't.
We had a table bought that arrived last weekend. I think was it.
During the week, a couple of days ago.
A few days ago. And mine's like, right, okay, I've organised, we've got my mum looking after Neve, so we can go and record a podcast on Saturday morning. So I'm like, perfect. It doesn't have to feel rushed. Anyway, so we've come, and we've not only we had to do some workouts for our personal training app, so that's also another thing to throw in that I didn't know about.
It's always these jobs in my head. They're like 2-minute jobs, but they're not 2-minute jobs.
And then we've come into our room where we record our podcast, and Ryan's carrying a box, and all of a sudden just pulls out all of the, I was going to say ingredients, all of these like
the
bits of the table.
And the instructions are like the shittest instructions you'll ever see. So if we'll be able to pull a picture up, like it's almost like there's your one. It's like 2 photos and expects you to know how to put it together, and it's a drawing. So
and I could see Ryan getting flustered.
Yeah,
and I was trying.
I did blame Ellie a little bit. Yeah. Like, you made me take the wrong car to work yesterday. So but we got here. We're smiling.
Let's hope the table lasts the podcast.
And we wanted to talk a little bit about weekends. We're actually ironically, is that the right word?
Saturday.
Using this, recording this on a weekend. And one of the reasons why we actually release the podcast on a Friday is because, typically Monday to Fridays are carnage, but we also do see like the carnage in a different way on a weekend. And we've found like so often, and this is part of why we sort of turn towards lifestyle coaching versus like PT or just training, is the weekends have a huge impact on like the level of progress you're gonna see or not.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the time like the weekends is where I think personally make a huge difference to not only helping you kind of maintain or see the progress that you're wanting, but also from like a social health, it's including the things that you enjoy, so you don't feel as if like you're having to make that decision, you pick and choose between what you're doing. So we find that if we can help someone get the right balance on their weekend, where they're not restricting themselves, they're not depriving themselves, they're including things, but also in the right way where they are still continue to see the progress that they want, then mentally as well, they're going to be happy with themselves. So then it eliminates that fear, that wanting to then give up because something's not working.
Yeah, and I think we are busy parents ourselves. We used to work Saturday mornings. We juggled the Saturday mornings between us, and 2 kids, 4 years between the 2 of them. It's not easy to juggle the 2 of them with hobbies. Like on a Saturday now, it got up to one point where there'd be like 4 hobbies between the 2 of them for us to juggle it. We physically couldn't manage it, and we're not alone in that. We see all the other parents, they're up at swimming, getting one kid changed into another for the next hobby, and it's darting around. So we totally get that weekends aren't a time where we can sit around and do nothing, but they're also a time where it's important. I think Ellie done the maths, where we don't want to just write it off and say, do you know what, I'm just going to hit the fuck it button and forget about our happiness and our health goals, because actually it is a time where we can probably do little bits more to help ourselves.
Yeah, and I think starting from the beginning of many sort of questions that we get from clients or from anyone day to day is kind of why am I not seeing the progress? And when someone says that to us, the first thing that we will initially do is, because we're connected on their MyFitnessPal, if they do track, we will go into their MyFitnessPal, and what we tend to find is we will see their food logging, their food tracking Monday to Thursday. It's consistent, with the foods that they enjoy to eat, and it's hitting their goals. And then what tends to happen, if you might see like a half a day on a Friday, nothing on a Saturday and nothing on a Sunday, then they come in on a Monday and it's like they then checked in or they've weighed it in on a Monday, which that's another subject which we always say don't do on a Monday. But then it's a question, why am I not seeing like the results? And, Friday to Sunday is 42% of your week as a total. So although you might think that, you've not bothered tracking or you just thought it's just the weekend, it's a one weekend, but often these can add up, and 42% is a huge percentage to your overall total.
Yeah, and then it's looking, they're the times where we tend to have more time that we can commit to being active. A lot of people that we're working with, we're talking to, they're in sedentary job roles Monday to Friday. So if you're in a sedentary job role Monday to Friday, that's your opportunity to get more active. It doesn't mean you have to be really, really tight with the food. We'd always advise, if you find nutrition a struggle, to log it from an awareness perspective, but never from a restrictive perspective. It should never be restrictive. But what it often does is it makes you aware, actually, do you know what? I'm probably eating like a bit of a dickhead on the weekend, and it's not personal. I do the same. I'm very much like Ellie talked there about the weight, not weighing yourself on a Monday, and particularly if it's something that's going to affect you mentally. But if you are going to weigh yourself on a Monday, weigh yourself daily. Like we know from the way that our bodies work, typically Monday our weight is the heaviest it is all week, and then it drops as the week goes on, and then it will build back up again from like a Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Monday morning, probably a little bit more. As long as you're trending down, if your goal is to lose weight, it shouldn't matter. But it is important that you're almost heeding with a bit of caution.
Yeah, I think it's, having that acknowledgement that weekends do matter to seeing the overall progress that you're wanting or the results that you're wanting. We're not here to say that you have to choose one thing or the other. It's about, being completely honest, being, like we always talk about track, assess, adapt. So it's, it's becoming mindfully aware, what are your weekends actually like? And depending on how you're feeling in yourself mentally, if you're finding that your confidence has been hit, your oomph in life, your motivation in terms of wanting to do the things that you once loved, if you're finding that's being impacted and you're not feeling like yourself, that's where the question comes in is, well, how much is your weekend impacting you overall? And it's just making a slight change. And it doesn't have to be like I said, everything, but it's maybe just reduce something. It could be the alcohol that you're choosing to drink. Could there be a simple swap that's a lower calorie that will help bring your calories down to maybe you're not so much in a surplus over the course of the week? Yeah,
because you touched on it at the start as well, is the importance of social health. And I think that that's something that you will hear us talk a lot about, and I think that people will use it as an excuse or a tick box. Is I know, but I am social, but it's being aware that what you're doing shouldn't negatively impact it, and use that, like Ellie said, track, assess and adapt, and question it. If you switch drinks, does it really impact your enjoyment massively? We found Ellie likes a red wine, so Ellie might have one or two red wines and then switches to a clear spirit with a diet mixer. I probably
doesn't drink red wine.
Yeah, I don't drink red wine, so it normally means Ellie has to have the whole bottle. But what we're saying is we don't want it to ever negatively, because it's also, you've got your time with the children, and the children inevitably, I don't know everybody, but a lot of the time we find kids, they prefer beige food. You don't want to sit there having a salad and a sparkling water whilst your children are there enjoying a higher carb pizza or whatever it might be. So it is important that you do these things. And some of the strategies that we will use, and we have different ways that we even do it together. And I think that as we've evolved as coaches, we've done it with more flexible approaches. Ellie will track her food in advance approximately, and it changes, but it gives her a bit of an awareness. Actually, do you know what, for a female, say you're trying to lose weight and say you're on 1,600 calories, if you have one meal out in an evening, that's probably going to be over 1,600 calories. So you don't want to starve yourself all day to be able to enjoy that meal. So it's probably going to need you to be a little bit more forward thinking in terms of what we call calorie banking. I don't think we've covered calorie banking, have we?
No.
So that could be like just saving a few calories, not massive amounts that you're starving yourself for days, but could be saving like 1,500, even 300. So you're saving between 10 and 20% for 3 or 4 days. Before it, you've got an extra 600-800 calories for that day. You haven't overindulged. You've been able to enjoy yourself absolutely guilt-free. And the most important thing is it is guilt-free. There's no negative emotion to it.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly touch on, because you brought in about the kids and like, you know, what they like enjoy, and that's what's really important, especially if, you know, if you're a parent listening, is one thing that's really important. It's kind of going on a subject that we will discuss in a podcast another day, and it's about your relationship with food. And for as a hopefully a role model to our two girls, is that I would never want them to view foods as, you know, good and naughty foods and things like that. And that's why it's important that they do see you eat foods that, you know...
Story.
Shush you. That are, you know,
I've got a
that
story,
perhaps are perceived not as high quality and nutrient quality, but, you know, are foods that are maybe we enjoy the taste of, a little bit more relaxed, like Ryan said, a little more beigey, but it overall, it increases that family time together where you're all together. They see mummy and daddy eating the same foods that they're eating, which perhaps may not happen Monday to Friday, because maybe you're going for more higher nutrient quality foods, maybe the kids don't like it. And I just think that it gives like a healthy image for children to see that, because we are having struggles where sometimes Eve may get told something at school where something's naughty, like she's come back before and actually needed it the other week, is jam, that jam's bad food. And for me, stop, I can see Ryan.
I'm not able to get a word in edgeways today.
Ryan's like, let me talk.
Because I've got a story that I want to share about it.
Shush you, my turn. It's because this subject is very sensitive to me, because I'm someone who has had a very unhealthy relationship with food in the past and body image, and that's why I've worked so hard on myself to get to this point where I can go out and go to TGI Fridays, you know, guilt-free, to celebrate my daughter's birthday. I can have a pizza because I understand about how the body works and how to be able to get that balance and overall live a healthy and happier life. And that's what my message. Over to you.
So, because it was the other day, I said to you about with Eva May. We were going out. I said to Eva May, "Where do you want to go for lunch?" And where was Neve? And anyway, where was Neve? And Eve May said she wanted to go for a schnitzel. I said, "Oh, that's fine, and that's cool. We'll go for a schnitzel." And I didn't want to have a schnitzel because they love a chicken schnitzel wrap from Our Fresh. Epic. If you're in Jersey, best lunch you'll get. And I said, that's fine, yeah, we can do that. And I'd had one the day before, and I was thinking, you know what, I actually don't need a chicken schnitzel every day. So I said, no, I'm not going to have it. And she's like, oh, why are you not having one? I was like, I don't want to. And she looked at me, and she probably heard what me and Ellie will talk about, because we're going to Dubai in a couple of weeks. I'd like to just be a little bit leaner, not doing nothing too strict. She said, Daddy, the chicken schnitzel won't make much of a difference to you when you're in Dubai. And it just got me thinking how much children hear what you're talking about when it comes to food. And, you know, I had a chicken schnitzel, absolutely loved it, and we cracked on. But it is just so important that when you are thinking about your nutritional decisions and the impact they have, don't just think about the impact they have on your body, but think about the impact on the way that we're talking about them has on the children around us, also other people around us, you know, because we speak to, I would say like 70-80% of the people that we talk to have had poor relationships with body image, which we'll probably talk on another day, and relationships with food. So it is so important that we're promoting a healthy relationship to what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think one way to help improve the overall relationship and removing guilt and things like that is literally, like, if you were to look at our lives, we have 2 completely different routines, Monday to Friday and then Saturday, Sunday. And so for us, we recognize that. And so we literally give ourselves 2 different routines so then we are a creature of habits. We love a routine anyway. But it kind of gives us that awareness and our expectations that we know exactly what we typically do. We know what's about to come. We also know that perhaps things that maybe are helping us or maybe impacting us towards a goal, like for example, you mentioned about Dubai, and if we wanted to tightening up a little bit. And that's what I think is important, because a lot of time people get frustrated that when they look at their typical week, and they're like, oh my God, like, the weekend's just like throwing me. I didn't do this and this and this. And it's like, well, okay, for example, activity. If you notice that your activity levels are high or low on the weekend, can go either way. For us, I think our weekends drop a little bit because
100%.
with the
Our
kids
kids
and
don't
stuff.
want to walk as much as us.
So we kind of work on a weekly average goal on our steps rather than daily, because we know that we're going to see that drop. And I think mentally that just helps us. Whereas I think for a lot of people will stress that they have to hit like 10,000 every day, but it may not be realistic to their lifestyle. And I think one thing that's really important that we will always stress is always make sure that things are realistic. Start off with the minimum and then gradually go on to improve, and apply that as well with your nutrition. Start off gradually adapting things, changing things, taking, I don't know, like if you wanted to reduce your calories, change something small, one thing at a time, and then go from there, because it's going to feel more realistic. You're going to be able to stick to it. You're not really going to notice it, and hopefully it becomes enjoyable, and then you're starting to see the best of both worlds.
Yes. So a few more tips. So another one is water, and it's probably the most boring tip in the world, but so underrated. Again, we speak to a lot of people Monday to Friday. Water is probably not as bad, particularly those who are desk bound. Having the water there, much easier. Saturday, Sunday, on the go, water intake's lower. That will also cause you to hold more water, by the way, because so your weight might be higher on a Monday because you've had a higher salt diet. You're less hydrated, so your body's holding to a little bit more water. So it will have negative impact. So water intake, like prioritize it. If you've got to set a reminder like 4 times a day, drink a cup of water, let's do that. Like use any tool you can, get an expensive bottle of water, like water bottle, so you've invested. It's like me and Ellie go through about 6 or 7 water bottles a year where we get a fancy one. It lasts a month or two, and then we're like, we need another one to promote us to do it. But it does make a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love a bottle with a straw.
Bright coloured water bottle, get it, yeah.
Yeah, and another one was about, like your routine that you would do Monday to Friday, for example, like taking your supplements. It's little things like those. Like often we see it, maybe people forget to take the supplements on a weekend. Yeah. And it's, just... Do you continue to tick the box of things that are helping you?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like we talked about in episode 1 or 2 about the importance of your non-negotiables, and it's recognising that those non-negotiables should be non-negotiable weekends as well. So it could be like, if you have got a step goal over the course of the week, you might find if you're less active Monday to Friday, you're not stressing, but it's like actually you're going to be promoting more activity on the weekend, which I would argue is a positive thing for the whole family anyway, particularly, if you're our side of the world when you're watching this now and the weather's about to turn to be nicer, you'd hope that actually it encourages us to be more active. And I know you'll get me saying, but by the weekend I'm tired. It's like a lot of the time actually giving your body more movement, more fresh air, more activity, more hydration will feel like we've got more energy. But that's probably one for another day as well.
Yeah, and I was going to say, if you are noticing like on a weekend, I don't know, appetite feels higher, often the time, obviously we mentioned that carbohydrates, we tend to go for more carb-based meals. It's being mindfully aware of, have you had much protein? We know that proteins can help us feel fuller for longer. It's going to satisfy us. So it's just being like aware, have you had any protein? Could you add in a protein snack? If you are, and this is something like if you okay, right, Ellie, Ryan, give me some like really super tips. Like I really want to kind of nail my weekends, but I'm quite social. This is where like I would be looking at, Ryan mentioned about calorie banking. It could be the case of pushing your first meal on that Saturday, if you're going out on the Saturday evening, to a little bit later. So essentially kind of maybe put together your first meal of the day and your second meal of the day together. Maybe drop the carbs a little bit, have a more like high protein based meal, like egg whites or something. So then
you save
the calories. And that's just a simple, easy way. Obviously, if you're drinking alcohol, I don't suggest you go out fasted because no one wants to be legless.
Hammered, yeah.
Little Bambi legs like me.
Ellie loves that. And then what was another one? Other ones are like awareness around decisions you make with food. Like I'm the first to admit can be greedy with
Five
food.
sides, man.
I don't like sharing. I like loads of sides, and it's sometimes looking at it. If your goals are important, it's not saying go out and live like a wall, because we'd never suggest that. But it could be looking at, do you need all 3 courses, or do you need to have the extra sides of it? You know, just being mindful. But one thing what we would never say is don't go out and order a food that you don't enjoy if you're eating out. Like, we will sometimes get, like, particularly new clients who are sort of new to our style of coaching, sending us the menu. What should I order? Our first thing is, what do you want? You know, like, literally, don't ever invest in a nice meal out and pick a meal purely based on your body goal, because when you're eating out, you're actually focusing on your besties goals, or your business goals, or there's a reason why you're eating out. It needs to be enjoyed. You're not forgetting about the body goal, but you're just having a different change of focus, and that is important.
Yeah, it might be slightly different, you know, if you're having maybe continual social events where it could be like business meetings, if they're coming up quite a lot, if you've had to travel for work. And we do have some clients who go, what would you order? You know, if it has been like a continual thing, and that's where we might look at something. We might go for like maybe a leaner source of protein, get some greens in, because when you are traveling, it's very difficult to get like high nutrient quality foods. So that would be one thing. But definitely, if this is like a celebration where it's a birthday, or, you know, you're out to have a good time with your mates, go and enjoy yourself. Because if you're, you know, on point to your goals like all the rest of the time, then one meal is not going to make a massive difference.
We're here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
What was next in our little structure?
We've talked about new routine, haven't we? Yeah, we've done the routine, and then we had a question.
We've got a question, so we're going to get the video up. So John sent this question in. I think we'll play it quickly.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah. So what was it?
Hi, Ryan and Ellie. I'd like to know if you could give me any tips to keep on track when life gets social.
Actually, very relevant to what we're talking about. Obviously, what he's asked there is more around when life gets social, and we talk a lot about progress is never linear. I think is the most important thing I would say with that, and recognizing that. So if you have a particularly social part to your calendar, like we know for us, like November tends to be social from November to December. It's just being aware of realistic expectations, I think, is the first and foremost thing that I'd suggest. You know, take a step out, look at it, and it's like on our check-in forms, one of the biggest things we've got, like the most important question is there anything coming up that could throw you out a little bit? So I would almost go into it with realistic expectations first and foremost.
Yeah, and I would then literally take each day or week at a time and map out what could you maybe do one thing that's going to help you feel good. Because often when there has been loads of social occasions, we're going to feel it in some way physically or mentally. And it could be like our sleep's impacted, our digestion gets impacted.
That's a good one, that.
Our mood gets impacted. So it's so important to really understand that if you were even just doing one thing each day or over the course of the week that was beneficial for you, I think it will just take the edge of it a little bit.
Another one that I would suggest strongly is keeping away from scales, keeping away from taking progress photos, and just focusing. It's linking to how Ellie said about how you feel, but also looking at the benefits you've had from being social. At the end of the day, like, we work so fucking hard in life at the moment. People are working longer hours. People are busier. They don't have much social time. So if you're somebody who's in a position where you have got a social month, like, embrace it, enjoy it. We're not saying just hit the forget about it button with your health. But what we're saying is don't be too restrictive of yourself. You're not going to gain like 10 kilos of body fat in a month from having a social month. You're really not. It's just recognizing, actually, I'm not going to track the variables that aren't going to make me feel better, because deep down we all know if we've had a really social month, yes, I've possibly slipped backwards a little bit. What you don't want to do is track it and then halfway through you think, I can't enjoy the next couple of weeks because I've tracked that I've gained 4 pounds, and, you know, even though it was mostly water. I think that would be another one I would say.
Yeah, and one thing I would say, which I don't know is going to sound a little bit harsh, but it's like real, is like have a bit of accountability on yourself and, like, you know, how you want to feel, but have like that time frame. Like if you know when you're talking about you have quite a few sociable weeks coming up, is how many weeks are we talking, and then have that discipline that when you know actually those social weeks are over, is the accountability. Okay, now I'm back on track. So for example, with any of our online clients, when they tell us this, I'm booking in a call in with them as soon as I know that holiday's ended, or that time in their period that life they've said when it's finished. We're booking in that call in, we're mapping out the next day, the next week, to get them back on track, just to get them feeling back, because it's so easy, because you're naturally maybe going to feel a little bit sluggish, out of your routine, out of your zinc, whatever the right word is there, what we would use, is it can feel difficult to get back into it. And that's where they've got accountability of us. So it's having that accountability that you're going to have after.
Yeah, and I've got one more final thing that I would say on it would be it's probably linked to the being accountable, but be prepared to be a bit selective. Like if your goals are really important, like your body related goals, like your health, fitness, weight, body fat are really important to you, and the social month is going to impact it, have a bit more responsibility, take a bit more control over which ones you are going to really let loose and really enjoy yourself, and ask yourself, do I need to, like if you've got four nights of it, do you need to drink all 4 nights? If you do, could you be a bit more selective on some of the nights in terms of, you know, I'm not going to drink quite as much, or I'm not going to have the bread at the start, or I'm not going to have the 3 courses plus the bread plus the cheese plus the, you know, could you just be a little bit more selective on some of the events without it impacting you socially? I think that's important. Like we would do that sometimes, particularly with clients who are going away for a week or something, and they're like, I've got work meals every night. Could you be selective on which ones are possibly more relaxed, if you like, and ones which aren't?
Yeah, and just finishing as well, don't feel the pressure of others to kind of like that you have to do, you know, make certain choices in terms of like whether it's drinking or the foods that you're eating and things like, you know, your overall life quality and your goals that you may have set in place are important to you. Never feel as if like you should be inflicted from others because maybe they're not on the same path as you.
Yeah, and that's actually a funny one, because I think like me and Ellie are probably a bit different. Like, I'm very direct, and I think sometimes like if you ask them like, you're not supportive of if you tell them what your goals are and why it's important to you, and then there is a little bit of peer pressure, it's like, oh, you don't support my goals, then they'll be a bit taken back and possibly, hold on a minute, like everybody who is around you socially, in theory, should want to support you. I'm pretty confident you want to support those around you if they had a goal that was important to them. So again, that can increase your accountability to it, and you won't be led astray a little bit.
Sorry, I was just laughing. I feel as if like we've just kept talking, but it's just based on support. And okay, I'm gonna be so like where I am in my cycle at the moment is when my appetite's higher and I crave, like I want the sugar and the chocolate. So we're about to go and walk the dog, and I was in the fridge outside.
Yeah, honestly, if looks could kill, we wouldn't have been doing this podcast.
I was in
like,
the
do I
fridge
choose
outside.
my battle? Choose my battle.
Well, I had with the kids, Easter chocolate that I'd like broke up to fit into a Tupperware. It was just there, but, you know, we just put it in the fridge. So the dog, Alfie, that's another story, didn't get to it. Anyway, so about to walk the dog, and I thought, do you know what, I fancy something sweet. So I'm tucking into some of Neve's Easter egg, and mine's like, put it down. And I'm like,
do you need it?
Do you need it? You've just told me, you know.
And looking at me like this.
And I just remember, I was like, and he was like, no more. And I was like, shoulder it in my mouth. But that's where it is really important to, you know, to, obviously I had expressed to Ryan about, we're going to Dubai, I want to kind of like tighten up a little bit more, kind of like make sure that because I know for me that my activity side is, I couldn't do any more what I'm doing. So for me, if I want to kind of see more progression, I need to relook at my nutritious choices. I probably am a little bit relaxed at the moment. That's okay. It's life. It's fun.
And just that Ellie isn't completely cutting chocolate out anyway, by
the way. Ryan said, did I really need it? Was I hungry? I wasn't hungry, but I just felt like I wanted that sweet. Females, you will understand where I'm going with this.
That's another thing as well with the breaking the chocolate up, made it more accessible, but that's a whole nother thing.
Because I wouldn't have gone to an Easter egg and gone like that, but I knew it was there, and I just wanted to have a nibble.
And you probably went in for a Pepsi Max and came out with a mouthful of chocolate.
Mm.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. Is that it? I think that was everything we wanted to cover today. We hope you have found this helpful. If you did, please let us know down below in the comments what you found most helpful about it. We'd also love it if you could like and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And obviously, if you do have any viewer questions that you're willing to you see it'll just be like a 10-15 second video, selfie, nothing over the top. A question, we will answer them for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Until next time, thank you very much. See ya. Should you see the wave?